the most useless gift in the kingdom, until everyone betrayed me. The first time my gift activated, all it did was make a wilted flower bloom again. Everyone clapped politely. Then they laughed. For years, every cat in the kingdom believed my magic could only restore tiny broken things. So when the great blight swallowed the land, they left me behind. My name is Selene. I was once the apprentice caretaker of Bloomhaven, the largest botanical sanctuary in the kingdom. Our world wasn't ruled by humans. It belonged to cats. Elegant cities climbed giant trees. Crystal rivers flowed beneath hanging bridges. Windmills turned above lavender fields. Pastel rooftops painted every village with soft pinks, mint greens, pale blues, and warm creams. It had once been beautiful. Until the blight arrived. Nobody knew where it came from. Flowers became gray. Trees turned hollow. Fruit crumbled into dust the moment it was picked. Animals became twisted, aggressive creatures driven only by hunger. Entire towns disappeared beneath forests that seemed alive. The royal council ordered every gifted cat to gather inside the capital. Fire mages, storm callers, sword dancers, crystal weavers. Every powerful gift was welcomed. Mine wasn't. The council looked over my records before sliding them back across the marble table. Restoration. The elder sighed. You restore cracked pots. Another snorted. And faded flowers. A third scratched his chin. We need warriors, not gardeners. I stood there quietly, while every eye avoided mine. Then Commander Rowan folded his arms. I'm sorry. There simply isn't room for useless gifts. The enormous gates closed, leaving me outside, alone. For 3 days I wandered Bloomhaven. The once vibrant gardens had become silent. Petals drifted through empty streets like snow. My stomach growled louder every hour. Every pantry had already been emptied by refugees. Eventually I reached my old greenhouse. Broken glass covered the floor. Someone had stolen every remaining seed. Except one. Hidden beneath an overturned flower pot lay a tiny dried lavender seed. It looked completely dead. I picked it up, almost without thinking. Restore. Warm light flickered from my paw. The brittle shell shimmered. Then, the seed became perfectly fresh. Not healthier. Not prepared. Brand new. I blinked. Slowly I planted it. Within seconds, fresh lavender burst from the soil. Then another. Then another. Entire rows bloomed before my eyes. The greenhouse filled with sweet fragrance. I stared, unable to breathe. Had my gift always done this? I grabbed a rotten apple from the floor. Restore. It became crisp, juicy, freshly picked. I found an empty watering can. Restore. Water filled it instantly. A cracked lantern. Restore. Brand new. A broken shovel. Restore. Factory fresh. My heart pounded. Everyone, even me, had misunderstood my gift. I wasn't repairing things. I was returning them to the finest condition they had ever existed in. And suddenly, everything abandoned by everyone else became treasure. For the next several days, I never left the greenhouse. Broken tools became perfect. Dead seats became endless gardens. Spoiled food became feasts. Old rain barrels filled again and again. Every empty basket became overflowing harvests. Soon I had enough food to survive an entire winter. Maybe longer. For the first time since the blight began. I smiled. But smiles don't stay long in broken worlds. One afternoon, voices echoed outside. 3 scavenger cats pushed open the greenhouse doors. Each wore patched armor. Each carried heavy clubs. The largest grinned. Well now, looks like somebody found herself a little paradise. His eyes moved across the overflowing vegetables. Fresh fruit, blooming flowers, clean water. The grin widened. You've been hiding all this. I quietly stepped in front of the garden. It belongs to everyone who's hungry. He laughed. Wonderful. Then we'll take everything. The others spread through the greenhouse. One reached for a basket. Another started ripping vegetables from the soil. The third kicked over a watering barrel. My ears flattened. I had spent days bringing this place back to life. I wasn't about to watch it die again. The biggest scavenger lifted his club. What are you going to do? Restore us. He laughed at his own joke. I looked down. Near my feet lay a rusted gardening rake, bent beyond recognition. I touched it. Restore. Silver light raced across the handle. The rotten wood became polished oak. The twisted metal straightened. The dull tines gleamed sharper than forged steel. The laughter stopped. I lifted the rake. Not like a weapon. Like someone protecting home. The biggest scavenger swung first. I stepped aside. His club smashed into the greenhouse bench. Before he could recover, clang! The rake struck his weapon. The old club shattered in half. Every eye widened. He stared at the broken handle still in his paws. The other two froze. Nobody moved, until a calm voice echoed from outside. "That's enough." All three scavengers stiffened instantly. A tall silver tabby stepped into the doorway. She wore soft blue explorer's armor instead of military gear. A long travel cloak fluttered behind her. A slender rapier rested at her side. Unlike everyone else, her eyes weren't on the vegetables. They were on me. I saw everything. She looked at the scavengers. "You were warned not to prey on survivors." The largest swallowed hard. "Captain, you have 10 seconds. They don't." The three fled without another word. Silence returned to the greenhouse. The silver tabby looked around slowly. Fresh fruit, perfect flowers, crystal clear water. Nothing matched the reports she'd heard about the blight. Finally, she smiled, a small one. "My name is Marlowe. I'm looking for someone capable of bringing hope back to this kingdom." Her eyes met mine. "I think I just found her." End of part 1. Part 2. Marlowe didn't ask where the food came from. She didn't ask why flowers bloomed where the blight had already won. Instead, she asked a single question. "How many others know about your gift?" I looked around the greenhouse. The three scavengers. Her smile disappeared. "Then we're already out of time." She explained everything as we hurried through Bloomhaven. The royal capital hadn't become a sanctuary. It had become a fortress. Every survivor was forced to surrender food, supplies, and magical relics in exchange for protection. Those who couldn't contribute were sent away. Officially, it was called relocation. Everyone else called it exile. "The council says resources are limited," Marlowe said quietly. "But every week the nobles somehow hold another banquet." I frowned. So they lied. They'd become very good at it. We traveled through abandoned villages painted in soft peach, lavender, mint, and pale blue. Despite the destruction, the world still looked strangely beautiful. Flowers climbed broken fences. Cherry blossoms drifted through empty streets. Tiny glowing butterflies floated between cracked windows. Nature refused to completely surrender.
Near sunset, Marlowe suddenly stopped. She crouched behind an old stone wall. "Don't move." Ahead, 6 armored cats surrounded a small family. A mother, a father, 2 tiny kittens. The soldiers wore polished gold armor bearing the royal crest. The father pleaded, "We already gave everything." The captain smiled. "The council has raised this month's contribution. We have nothing left. Then your house will do." One soldier kicked over their cart. Another grabbed one of the frightened kittens. My chest tightened. Marlowe whispered, "Stay hidden." Instead, I walked out. Every soldier turned. The captain laughed. "Another volunteer?" His eyes drifted to the fresh vegetables inside my travel pack. "Oh, so that's where all the food has been hiding." He reached for it. I caught his wrist. His smile faded. "You really shouldn't have done that." He pulled free and drew his sword. "Arrest her." 3 soldiers charged. I stepped backward. My paw brushed against an abandoned wheelbarrow. Its wooden frame had rotted almost to dust. "Restore." Golden light spread across it. Fresh oak. Steel reinforcements. New iron wheels. One charging soldier slammed directly into it. Crash. The wheelbarrow hit him like a charging ram. He rolled across the dirt with a groan. The others hesitated. Marlowe blinked. "Creative." I smiled nervously. "I improvise." The captain lunged. His expensive sword flashed. I ducked. The blade struck an old stone fountain behind me. Chunks broke away. Without thinking, I touched the fountain. "Restore." The cracks vanished. Water burst upward into the air. The sudden explosion drenched every soldier. The polished stone gleamed like it had been carved yesterday. The captain stumbled backward. Everyone stared. Even me. That hadn't just repaired it. It restored the underground spring. My gift worked on systems, not just objects. The frightened family escaped while the soldiers struggled to regain their footing. Marlowe disarmed the captain in 3 swift movements. The remaining guards fled, not because they were beaten, because they'd seen impossible magic. That evening, we reached a hidden valley. Nestled beneath flowering cliffs stood a tiny settlement. Pastel cottages, windmills, gardens, dozens of survivors. Children laughed. Someone played music. For a moment, it felt like the world before the blight. The villagers welcomed us warmly. Fresh blankets, warm soup, smiles. I hadn't seen smiles in weeks, maybe months. An elderly tortoiseshell named Brisa greeted me with tears in her eyes. "Marlowe says you're a gardener." "I used to be." She took my paw. We've been waiting for someone like you. The next morning, I walked through the village gardens. Everything was dying. Fruit trees, vegetables, flowers. Even the wells were drying up. I knelt beside the oldest apple tree. Restore. Soft white light spread through its roots. Gray bark turned rich brown. Leaves unfurled. Pink blossoms exploded across every branch. Then, hundreds of ripe apples appeared at once. Gasps erupted behind me. Children ran toward the tree laughing. One little kitten hugged the trunk. It smells like spring. Before noon, every field had become green again. Every broken fence stood tall. Every empty water barrel filled itself. Every cracked windmill spun. Hope returned to the valley. For the first time, everyone believed tomorrow might exist. But hope attracts attention. 3 nights later, watch bells rang. Every cat rushed outside. Smoke curled over the northern ridge. Dozens, no, hundreds of armored soldiers marched toward the valley. Royal banners fluttered above them. At their center rode a massive cream-colored tomcat wrapped in velvet armor. Lord Cedric, one of the royal council's highest commanders. His voice echoed across the valley. We know the restoration cat is here. Hand her over. And the rest of you may live. Silence. No one moved. Then, Brisa stepped forward. You'll have to take all of us. One by one, the villagers joined her. Old cats, young cats, children, farmers, blacksmiths. No one stepped aside. For the first time, since the blight began, someone had chosen me. Instead of abandoning me, I felt something tighten in my chest. Just then, a tiny orange kitten tugged gently on the audience's sleeve. Excuse me, if you've made it this far, you must secretly like cats. Another kitten nodded very seriously. And if you don't press subscribe, our storyteller might think nobody wants another adventure. A fluffy white kitten whispered loudly. We're also accepting belly rubs. The orange kitten looked directly at you. Go on. We'll wait. Actually, no, we won't. Things are about to get really chaotic. The kitten scampered away as if nothing had happened. Lord Cedric slowly smiled. Touching. He raised one paw. Thousands of crossbows lifted toward the village. Then he spoke 5 words. Burn every flower they have. The first flaming arrow flew. Then another. Then hundreds. The peaceful valley disappeared beneath a sky of fire. And, in that moment, I realized something terrifying. My gift could restore almost anything. But, could I restore an entire kingdom? The first flaming arrow struck the oldest apple tree. Whoosh. The blossoms vanished inside a tower of fire. Then another arrow landed. Then 20. Within seconds, the peaceful valley looked like the sunset itself had fallen from the sky. Children screamed. Parents rushed to shield them. Smoke swallowed the gardens. Lord Cedric watched from his horse, smiling. Let's see your little gardening trick now. I didn't move. Not because I was afraid. Because I was thinking. Fire destroys. But fire also leaves something behind. Ash. I scooped up a pawful of gray ash from the burning grass. Restore. The ash shimmered. Tiny sparks floated upward. Then, fresh green blades burst through the blackened earth. Flowers exploded into bloom. The burning tree groaned. Its charred bark peeled away. Fresh wood spread upward. Branches stretched toward the sky. And in front of hundreds of stunned soldiers, the entire apple tree returned. Even larger than before. Heavy with fruit. Silence. Even the fire seemed to hesitate. Lord Cedric's smile disappeared. Impossible. One soldier whispered. Another dropped his bow. A third actually took 2 nervous steps backward. Marlowe looked at me in complete disbelief. You restored the ashes? I stared at my own glowing paws. I don't think I restored the tree. I restored what the tree remembered being. Cedric snarled. Enough. He slammed his spear into the ground. Rows of siege wagons rolled forward. Huge crystal cannons. Every survivor gasped. The crystal cannons. Ancient relics. Powerful enough to shatter castle walls. They had never been used against civilians. Until today. Fire. Boom. The first crystal shell screamed through the air. It smashed directly into the village square. Pastel homes exploded into splinters. Pink rooftops spun into the sky. Mint-colored shutters crashed across the street. The laughter that had filled this place only yesterday was replaced by silence. Something inside me broke. Not with sadness. With certainty. I had spent my whole life restoring broken things. Maybe it was time to stop waiting until things broke. The second cannon fired. I ran straight toward it. Everyone shouted, "Selene!" Another blast erupted. This time, I reached the shell before it exploded. I placed one paw against it. Restore. The crystal shell shimmered, shrank. Its polished surface became cloudy, then rough. Then it transformed into an ordinary chunk of unfinished crystal ore. The explosive magic inside vanished. The stone dropped harmlessly into the grass. Every soldier froze. Cedric's ears flattened. What? I finally understood. Restore didn't only return something to its best condition. It could return something to before it became dangerous. The battlefield changed instantly. Every cannonball became harmless stone. Every sharpened spear reverted into unfinished wood. Steel swords became dull blacksmith blanks. Crossbows unraveled into loose pieces of timber. One by one, the royal army's weapons simply stopped being weapons. Confusion erupted. What happened to my sword? My bow? It won't fire. It's falling apart. The villagers stood speechless. No one had to fight. The battle ended before it truly began. Lord Cedric jumped from his horse. His enormous spear still remained. Unlike the others, it glowed deep violet. Ancient magic. Protected. He charged. The ground cracked beneath every step. Marlowe rushed forward. I'll stop him. Cedric struck once. Their blades collided. Crack. Marlowe's rapier snapped in half. She crashed across the square. Hard. She tried to stand. Couldn't. Cedric laughed. So much for heroes. I stepped between them. He looked me up and down. A gardener. I expected more. So did I. I smiled. His spear came down with enough force to split stone. I didn't dodge. I caught the shaft. Restore. The violet glow flickered. The ancient enchantments disappeared. The priceless royal relic became an ordinary wooden walking stick. Cedric blinked. No. He looked down. No. He shook it desperately. Nothing happened. His face turned pale. The invincible commander now held a cane. He stumbled backward. Fear replaced arrogance. Protect me. No one moved. His army had already begun retreating. Without weapons. Without confidence. Without purpose. The great royal army fled from a gardener carrying nothing but a wooden rake. The survivors erupted into cheers. Children surrounded me. Someone laughed. Someone cried. Even Marlowe smiled despite the pain. Brisa simply hugged me. You didn't just save us. You reminded us that monsters can lose. The valley rebuilt faster than anyone imagined. Every broken home, restored. Every burned bridge, restored. Every shattered windmill, restored. Within days, it looked even more beautiful than before. Cats from neighboring villages began arriving. Then dozens more. Then hundreds. Some carried nothing. Some carried injured family members. Others simply asked, "Can we stay?" I never asked what they had. Only, "What do you need?" Weeks passed. The tiny village transformed into a thriving sanctuary. Pastel cottages stretched across the hills. Flower gardens connected every home. Windmills turned once more. Music returned. Hope became contagious. People started calling it Sun Petal Haven. But not everyone celebrated. One rainy evening, a young messenger collapsed through the gates. Covered in mud, panting. The royal capital? They've blamed you for everything. He swallowed hard. They're telling everyone that you created the blight. The entire courtyard fell silent. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. They're afraid, Marlowe whispered. I nodded. No. I looked toward the distant capital. They're desperate. The messenger handed me a weathered parchment. It bore the royal seal. Inside was a single sentence. Deliver Selene before the next full moon, or every village sheltering her will be erased from the map. Brisa clenched the letter until it crumpled. They'll never stop. I looked beyond the hills, toward the glowing towers of the capital. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about surviving. I was thinking about ending this. That night, unable to sleep, I wandered through the sanctuary gardens. Everything was peaceful. Fireflies drifted between lavender flowers. Tiny streams reflected the moonlight. Then, I heard footsteps. Soft. Careful. Someone was inside the supply house. I quietly approached. The door stood slightly open. Inside, a hooded cat was copying maps. Food inventories. Guard rotations. Hidden escape routes. The figure heard me, turned, and froze. My heart dropped. Marlowe. She slowly lowered the papers. Her eyes filled with guilt. I'm sorry, Selene. They still have my family. The room fell completely silent. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Marlowe never reached for her sword. She simply stood there, holding the stolen maps in trembling paws. I wasn't going to give them everything. Her voice cracked. I was only marking the old supply routes. I stared at her. You lied to me. She nodded. I know. You lied to everyone. Another nod. I know. Tears rolled down her cheeks. They have my mother, my younger brother, my little sister. The council promised they'd free them if I kept watching you. She looked like she hated every word she spoke. But every time I tried to leave, they sent another letter. They'd cut off another piece of hope. For a long moment, nobody said anything. Then Brisa quietly asked, How long? Marlowe closed her eyes. Since before I found Selene. Every cat in the room stiffened. Even I hadn't expected that. So, you were sent to spy on me? Yes. But somewhere along the way, I forgot I was pretending. Nobody moved. Nobody shouted. Nobody accused her. Because every cat in that room saw something far more frightening than betrayal. They saw fear. Real fear. I slowly walked toward her. She didn't step back. She didn't defend herself. She simply lowered her head. If you want me imprisoned, I won't resist. If you want me gone, I'll leave. If you hate me, I understand. I gently took the maps from her paws. Then, I folded them and handed them back. Her ears lifted. What? I believe you. The entire room looked at me. Even Marlowe. You betrayed my trust. I said quietly, but not your heart. She burst into tears. Real ones. The kind no performance could fake. The next morning, Sunpetal Haven prepared for war. Not because we wanted it. Because we knew it was coming. Hundreds of survivors volunteered. Gardeners, builders, teachers, artists, blacksmiths. Nobody had been soldiers before, but every one of them stood together. Not because they believed they couldn't lose. Because they believed someone beside them would catch them if they fell. 3 days later, the royal army arrived. Not hundreds this time. Thousands. The valley disappeared beneath banners. Crystal siege towers rolled forward. Armored beasts pulled massive battering engines. Above them, airships floated through pastel clouds. The council had brought everything. At the front, 7 royal counselors stood together, each war robes embroidered with glowing silver vines. Behind them, inside a crystal cage, 3 frightened cats looked out. Marlowe's family, alive, but terrified. The eldest counselor smiled. One final chance. Hand over restoration, and we'll spare these traitors. Marlowe took one trembling step forward. I'll go. No. I caught her shoulder. They never intended to let anyone leave. The counselor chuckled, very observant. Then, with one wave of his paw, the airships opened fire. The sky exploded. Crystal shells, fire, lightning, ice. Every kind of magic rained down, at once. The sanctuary disappeared beneath smoke. Children screamed. The ground shook. Entire cottages vanished beneath explosions. Even my heart skipped. There were simply too many. Then, I stopped running. I looked upward. Really looked. Every attack, every weapon, every machine, everything in the sky, had once been something else. I closed my eyes. Not to escape. To remember. Restore. The world became silent. Every crystal shell dissolved into harmless sand. Lightning crystals became ordinary quartz. The floating warships slowed. Their enchanted engines unraveled into unfinished wooden frames. One by one, the mighty vessels drifted gently back toward the ground, like giant paper lanterns losing the wind. Nobody died. Nobody even fell. They simply landed, powerless. Gasps echoed across both armies. The council stared upward. One whispered, Impossible. Another shook his head. No magic can reach that far. Mine could. Because I wasn't reaching farther. I was reaching deeper. The eldest counselor snarled. You think you've won? He struck his staff against the earth. The ground split apart. A deafening roar echoed beneath the valley. The earth itself cracked open. From below, something enormous climbed toward the surface. Not a monster. Not an animal. A tree. A colossal tree. Its bark was black as midnight. Its branches stretched beyond the clouds. Its roots spread across the kingdom itself. Every patch of blight, every dying forest, every poisoned river, connected directly to it. The survivors stood frozen. Brisa whispered, "The heartroot." Marlowe stared in horror. It wasn't a legend. The eldest counselor smiled. "You thought the blight was a disaster? It was our masterpiece." The words hit harder than any weapon. "We discovered the heartroot centuries ago. It granted limitless magical energy. But only if it fed. So, we fed it. One forest, one river, one village, at a time. It made our kingdom prosperous." His smile widened, until it became hungry. Everything suddenly made sense. The spreading decay, the endless corruption. The council hadn't failed to stop it. They had created it. My paws trembled. Not from fear. From anger. The heartroot wasn't evil. It was starving, abused, forced to consume life until it no longer remembered how to give it. I slowly walked toward it. The council laughed. "You can't restore something that old. You can't restore an entire kingdom." Maybe not. Months ago, I couldn't restore a tree either. The heartroot towered above me. Its bark crumbled. Its branches wept black sap. Its leaves had long since disappeared. I placed one paw against its enormous trunk.
"Warm. Alive."
"Lonely," I whispered. "I know." For the first time, the tree answered. Not with words. With memories. I saw ancient forests, laughing children, countless seasons, birds nesting in brilliant green branches. Before greed, before fear, before the council chained it, I opened my eyes. Restore. Nothing happened. 1 second.
2.
3.
Then,
A single leaf appeared, bright mint green. Then another. Soft pink blossoms opened across one branch. The black bark began peeling away. The corruption retreated like shadows before sunrise. Roots that had poisoned rivers released clear water instead. The blight stopped spreading. Across the kingdom, gray forests became green. Wilted flowers bloomed. Rivers sparkled. Fruit returned to forgotten orchards. The sky turned blue. Not because I destroyed the blight, because I reminded the world what it had always been. The heartroot shone brighter than the morning sun. Its branches spread across the entire kingdom. Petals drifted through the air like pastel snow. Every cat looked upward, speechless. The council fell to their knees. Not defeated. Simply forgotten. No one looked at them anymore. Hope had become more interesting. Weeks later, the royal capital opened its gates. Not under new rulers. Under new neighbors. No one sat upon the throne. Instead, the council chamber became a library. The royal treasury became a hospital. The palace gardens became exactly what they should have been all along. Gardens. Brisa planted the first apple tree. Children painted every building soft pink, lavender, mint, peach, and baby blue. Artists filled the streets again. Windmills turned. Music returned. Laughter echoed between flower-covered rooftops. No one called it the capital anymore. They called it the blooming kingdom. One evening, I sat beneath the restored heartroot. Marlowe joined me. "So," she smiled. "What now?" I looked toward the horizon. Birds crossed the sunset. Butterflies danced through lavender fields. Families picnicked beneath cherry blossoms. Nothing needed restoring. At least, not today. I smiled. I think. Today we simply live. Far above the kingdom, hidden among the clouds, one tiny black seed drifted silently through the wind. It landed, far beyond the northern mountains. The earth beneath it shimmered. Then, ever so slightly, it began to glow.